Hey guys, welcome back to another great game of CEDH. Well, now that we're in the new year, of course, we need to look back and see what the best commander of 2024 was. Minus the bird. But to help us out, we've enlisted the help of Towley and Durfel of Unstable Commanders. They're another CEDH commander group that you should definitely check out, as they're also running a giveaway that should be ending pretty soon after this video goes up. Also, before we get into the deck intros, I wanted to show off this sick new beanie that I made. And while I might not be able to afford a serialized card, I can own a serialized beanie. And if one of one isn't enough for you, I'm also offering custom numbering. So if you want to show off some real mtg bling, check out the store, linked, I guess, somewhere in the corners. But before starting us off is Towley on Roxanne, aiming for infinite mana through food chain or a few other means, while being a reliable source of ramp and removal. Next up is Hidden on the Wise Mothman. This is a staxy combo deck looking to slow your opponents down while using the Mothman to fill your own grave and get swole off your opponent's mills as well. In the third spot, we have Durfel on Niv Mizzet Visionary. This is another take on Izzet Burn, aiming to use mass damage effects to draw massive amounts of cards and eventually storm off through a few different combos. And bringing up the rear is mtg Loots on the Jolly Balloonman. This is a Boros Kiki Jiki, aiming to combo off with value creatures and untappers to gain infinite attackers.
Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board.
Towley starts off the game with a Bloodstained Mire, cracking the fetch for a Taiga, shortcutting as he casts a Mox Diamond, discarding an Exotic Orchard, ending his turn with a Destiny Spinner. Hidden has a Marsh Flats, cracking the land for a tapped Overgrown Tomb. Durfel plays and cracks a Flooded Strand for Volcanic Island, passing it there. Loots doesn't have anything to do as he plays out a tapped Shatterskull of the Hammer Pass. Towley untaps and plays out a Chrome Mox. He imprints a Court of Calling and follows it up with another Mox, this one being a Mox Opal. He has Metalcraft and taps 3 for a Wheel of Fortune. Everyone then discards their hand and draws a fresh set of 7, with Towley then ending his turn with a Verdant Catacombs. Hidden's new hand is unfortunately much worse as he plays and cracks a Windswept Heath for a Tropical Island, tapping the land for a Delighted Halfling. Durfel plays out a Sheevan Reef and taps it for an Izzet Signet. Loot starts off his turn with a Chrome Mox. He imprints a Pinnacle Monk and then plays and cracks a Scalding Tarn. Towley will, for safety's sake, crack his Verdant for a tap Stomping Grounds, while Loots grabs out a Taiga. He saves time though as he casts an Imperial Recruiter, who resolves and grabs him a Goblin Welder. Towley untaps and slams down his commander Roxanne, who on ETB pings Durfel for 2 off the Meteorite. Hidden draws and plays out a Snow-Covered Island, and for 4 casts his commander the Mothman, who gives everyone a radiation counter off ETB. Durfel untaps and plays out a Sculling Tarn as land. We then remember the rad counter as he mills a Mana Drain, taking 1 and losing his radiation, also growing the Mothman. Durfel then cracks his fetch for a mountain, but hands the turn over after that. Loots mills an Ancient Tomb off his rad counter, and then shocks into Sacred Foundry as land for turn. He then taps 3 for his commander, the Jolly Balloonman, who resolves and is then activated to make a copy of his Recruiter. This time he grabs the Skyclave Apparition off the Search ETB, and then ends his turn with combat, as he sends the Ballooned Recruiter at Towley for 1. Towley mills in a Braid and once again grows the Mothman. Then, with the help of Roxanne gaining him extra mana, casts a Valakut Awakening. He puts 4 on the bottom, draws, and then fires off a Gamble. He has 7 cards left in hand, as Hidden then casts a Fierce Guardianship to counter the spell. The spell is countered as Towley then deploys a Birds of Paradise and a Llanowar Elves before moving to combat. He then turns Roxanne sideways at Loots, pinging the Recruiter with the incoming Meteorite. Hidden ends up milling a Boseiju off his own rad counter and plays out a Scalding Tarn as land. He cracks the fetch for an untapped Breeding Pool, and then for 3 casts an Ashiok. Tally does have a response as he casts a crop rotation, sacrificing his taiga. But not wanting to deal with a Gaia's Cradle, Durful counters it with a mental misstep. The Planeswalker then resolves, with Hidden downticking it to hopefully luck exile something from Tally, who does mill a Mind Goblin along with 2 non-land cards to grow the Mothman, with everyone also exiling their graveyard. Hidden will then head to combat and send the Mothman at Durful, who suspiciously has not really done anything yet. Everyone will gain another rad counter on attack, with Durful taking 8. With Durful at his end step, Ghostfire slicing the Ashiok. Durful then mills a Manamo off his rad counter and has a tapped Mystic Peak as land for turn, once again passing with mana open. Loots untaps and mills a Lightning Bolt and a Trouble in Pairs off his rad counters. Mothman grows as Loots plays out a Battlefield Forge. He then casts his Tutored Skyclave as Hidden makes a deal with Loots, as he'll not send his commander that way if he doesn't remove the creature. Loots will agree and decides to exile Tally's Mox Diamond, as he then activates the Balloonman to copy the Skyclave, this time exiling the Destiny Spinner, although Hidden points out he should have hit those in reverse, as Loots then heads to combat and sends the Balloon at Tally for 1, with Tally getting a 2/2 Spirit when the token goes away. Tally mills a Fellwar Stone from his Radiation and plays out a City of Brass's land for turn. He then casts a Reckless Fireweaver, and while that seemed bad, he then follows it up with a Roaming Throne. No one has any responses as he names Cat and pings the table from the Fireweaver. He then heads to combat, but before he can declare attackers, Loots takes 1 to cast a Path to Exile on Roxanne. Tally will respawn as he casts a Dualcaster Mage. He can then copy the path, and he doesn't like the idea of his stuff getting exiled, as he exiles Loots' Skyclave. He then grabs out a tapped Plains, as Tally then gets a tapped Forest. Hidden mills a land and a Lotus Petal off his rad counters, and then heads to combat. He sends the Mothman at Tally, with everyone getting a rad counter, and Tally chumping with his bird. Hidden then on his second main casts a Static Orb.
Counter it.
All right, Durful, we're relying on you.
You guys got jokes. First off, I only have one thing to untap. Second, I approve the Static Orb at the moment.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Static Orb. I mean, you get to untap a land and you're like Balloonman, so you're fine, Loots.
Hey, remember when I had that Skyclave apparition that could deal with anything, Tally?
I don't know what you're talking about. I have short-term memory loss.
That one card that could do it, that is supposed to be exiled.
Oh, I got ways to get rid of artifacts. It's fine.
With Hidden then ending his turn with a Collector Oof. Durful mills a Phyrexian Metamorph and a Snow-Covered Island off his rad counters. Unfortunately, he was hoping for that land, as he then passes his turn there. Loots untaps 2, plays out a Gemstone Caverns, and mills a Ragavan off his rad counters, but also passes it there. Tally untaps 2, and mills a Survival of the Fittest, and seeing as most of his mana is shut off for now, also passes the turn. Hidden untaps 2, and mills a Mindcrank and a Blood Chief's Ascension, and oh boy did he want those cards, as he then heads to combat, sending the Mothman to finish Durful off, who surprisingly doesn't have anything and dies, with the table gaining 1 more rad counter. Loots untaps 2, and mills a Recruiter of the Guards, and things are not looking good for the table as he also passes it there. Tally mills a Twin Flame off the top and takes 1 off his City of Brass to cast an Eldritch Evolution. He sacks his Dualcaster, but alas, Hidden responds with the Force of Negation, exiling a Back to Basics to counter the spell and end his turn there. Hidden untaps and mills a Vamp Tutor. He's 1 point of damage short of one-shotting people, as he sends the Mothman at Loots for 20, passing after that. Loots mills in a Johnny and plays out a Mutavault as land, but it looks like he's out of gas and passes as well. Tally then ends up milling a Noxious Revival, and looks like whatever he drew does not deal with the Mothman, as he hands the turn over. Hidden will then mill a Struggle for Project Purity, as he plays out a Gemstone Caverns as land, and then turns his behemoth moth at Towley for lethal, whose only response is to help Lutz out as he channels a Beseju on the Chromox, giving Lutz a mountain, but dying in the process. With Hidden then ending his turn with a Trinisphere and hoping he can fade removal one more turn. Lutz unfortunately mills a land and did not draw an answer as he concedes, giving Hidden the game.
Game review. Well, you heard it here. Definitely Mothman, best commander of 2024. But in all seriousness, the deck did feel great, and it was a blast when you get to punch people with a commander that can one-shot people. Granted, overall, there were a few hiccups for the others. I think that Towley should have used his first meteorite to take out either my Delighted Halfling or Lutz's Recruiter, as that one-turn lapse really ended up hurting him in the long run. And as for Durfel, unfortunately, he was holding a handful of nothing, and was never able to power up Niv to start gaining him card advantage. Thanks to everyone that joined for the game, and before everyone leaves, I want to thank our special Patreon members, Slyfox and Holy Septic, for their support of the channel. And remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.